This is the
All
Brandon
right.
show today, so
This is well.
I'm excited.
Oh yeah. Well, don't get too excited.
Oh
Uh,
no,
so last, I don't know if we didn't do one at, did we do one at all last week?
we did not.
No, we did
No,
not. We took the week off because
yeah, we took the
the
week off.
schedule change and everything.
Yeah,
Right. Okay. Well, previous to last week, we had been talking about some pretty intense subjects, I guess. I mean, it kind of seemed like every session was ended up somebody was crying,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
which
okay, that's
I
true.
mean, that's not exactly unexpected when we're talking about trauma, but maybe I thought, well, maybe we should talk about maybe something a little lighter. And I think somebody had mentioned humor, and I mean, I can't tell you that I'm gonna make you laugh all hour long, but um, I I decided to go into basically defense mechanisms because
Okay.
that's one of the things that humor can be, that we can use humor for.
Yeah, very
What?
much so.
Oh, okay. Um, so defense mechanisms, they were basically introduced by Sigmund Freud, and he believed they were a way to kind of balance the id and the superego, to kind of bring your state of being into balance or homeostasis, if you will.
Yeah.
So if you are feeling anxious, you might either consciously or unconsciously, subconsciously deploy some kind of defense that would at least temporarily on the surface relieve that anxiety or whatever it is that's um, troubling you.
Yeah.
So actually, Freud's daughter came up with 10 different types of defense mechanisms, which I never even, I studied psychology and we never talked about Freud's daughter before. And I didn't realize she was even, she followed in her father's footsteps. But I brought up, I've got it on my computer because I don't
Well,
know. I didn't know.
they love to erase women scientists.
Well, that's true. Yeah. And back then, especially, um, I brought it up on my computer because I didn't trust myself to remember all 10 of them. So some of the defense mechanisms, at least the 10 in this list, are displacement, denial, which is, I think a lot of people are familiar with that one, repression, suppression, sublimation, projection, intellectualization, rationalization, regression, and reaction formulation.
Yes. Yes, you're having studied psychology and having studied deviant psychology before I did other things. I can confirm that what you have indicated is correct.
And I mean, you might think of different types of mechanisms, but most of them will fall into one of these categories.
Yeah.
I'll give just like a very brief kind of explanation, I guess. Displacement is taking feelings out on others. Denial obviously denying that something exists.
Right.
I think that especially is one that a lot of queer people go through, and perhaps their parents or loved ones,
Mhm.
they have these feelings, and they may be at odds with what they've been taught or how they've been raised in the church or whatever. And
Right.
so to deal with that imbalance, that's whatever you call it, that conflict, that they will deny it so they don't have to deal with it. It's a
Yeah.
defense, because that anxiety comes up. You're like, well, I feel this way, but I'm being taught that that's wrong. So
Right.
I'm going to deny that this exists.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of parents are like that too. They believe that something that's being gay is wrong or whatever, and they realize that their son or daughter is uh, queer, and so they try to deny it.
Yeah. Well, even like more progressive parents employ denial because they might have, maybe their ideology is a little bit different, and so they are accepting of queerness in like a theoretical sense.
Right, right,
But when
But
it becomes
like,
one of your kids, that's a different story.
right, yeah, like, oh, yeah, gay people are fine. My son being gay, that's not
That's
fine.
not
right. Yeah.
Yeah,
When it comes home, when it becomes right in front of your face and real, it's a different story.
yeah,
And yes, metaphor says cognitive dissonance. Yes, that's the
yeah,
kind of the battle in one's mind, basically. Um, so denial, repression. I think we've all kind of heard of that.
Oh,
Kind of, it's
you're talking to a person that has gap years. If you want to have the repression discussion,
yeah.
we can talk about that.
So there's repression and suppression.
Right.
SUP, suppression. Repression, of course, is an unconscious tamping down of
Yeah.
memories or trauma, and
Yeah.
suppression is actually consciously pushing it away, pushing it down. And that's very similar to denial, I think. Um, Sublimation is converting unacceptable impulses into more acceptable outlets, and that happens a lot in anger. Like if we're really angry at something, and so we have a punching bag in our garage that we take out our aggression on, that's a more acceptable form rather than going out and attacking.
using a person for that punching bag. Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah.
You can be, and I mean, this happens in every relationship. You get mad at your spouse or whatever, but you don't take it out on them in a physical sense, or you shouldn't, at least. But a more acceptable form would be using a punching bag or taking up kickboxing or some kind of sport, that kind of gets your adrenaline flowing and kind of gets that out. You know what I mean? Um, Projection, of course, is putting your feelings onto someone else, kind of basically assigning your feelings, what you're feeling, to someone else. Like, you don't want to deal with it yourself, so you're like, well, you're the one that's angry or that's not accepting or whatever.
Mhm.
Does that make sense? Intellectualization is thinking about stressful things in a clinical way. Now, and that's one thing. When we were talking the other day, Wendy, you were talking about like driving to work, and sometimes you have anxiety and you call somebody, or and if you're driving to work and you start having this anxiety, using intellectualization might be saying like, okay, I'm having this physical reaction. I'm feeling anxious and my body is doing this. My blood pressure is going up because I'm thinking of what I'm going to experience at work or the possible scenarios. And so you intellectualize it to kind of stop it from happening. And
Correct.
this, one of the points I wanted to make is a lot of people talk about defense mechanisms as if they are a negative thing, which is not always true.
They're morally neutral.
Yeah, in some cases, a defense mechanism can be detrimental. If you are suppressing emotions and, it's building up this anxiety in you and it's causing physical harm, of course, that can be bad for your health. That can be detrimental. But if you use something like intellectualization, where you're kind of breaking it down and saying, okay, this isn't as bad as I think it is, because these things are happening. These are why I'm feeling this way, and that can kind of relieve that anxiety, which is a
Yeah.
positive thing.
And I think
That
a
is a
lot of times, like, the duration of the defense mechanism can affect, like, whether it's helping you or hurting you. So if you need to, in order to get through a particular situation, deny something just so that your mind can set it aside and you can deal with it later, then doing that to get through the situation that you're in can be the healthy response. That's using the defense mechanism as a defense. But if you put that thing in the denial box and leave it there permanently, that's when it's going to, become this thing that's like in the background and it's eating you up inside.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
no trans person has ever gone through that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a completely novel thing.
yeah, yeah. So then, and at that point, it kind of turns into more of suppression, where you're just constantly keeping it down and not dealing with it at all. But yeah,
Yeah,
you're right. If it's like a temporary, I'm going to deny this for now. I'm not going to deal with it at this moment, because I'm not in the right state to think about it
yeah,
and to deal with it.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Um,
Ugh.
so intellectualization, rationalization is when you justify unacceptable feelings. And so that can be kind of like blaming almost.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
mean, you're creating a logical excuse
Yeah,
Yeah,
for why something happens or occurs.
right.
Um,
Oh, sorry.
no, no,
Oh,
no.
were you? Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Then there was regression, and that is like reverting to earlier behaviors. Like a lot of times you might hear about someone, if they're scared or feeling anxious, they might curl up in a ball and hold a teddy bear or something like that. That's kind of regressing to a childlike behavior, like what they might
hmm
have done when they were a kid. They go into a closet or under their covers or something and regress back to childhood behaviors.
A safer state of mind.
Yeah.
That's the basis for pretty much all of DID. When a person fractures from a personality perspective, and they go into a multiple personality state. That's the thing that's the start of that is reverting to a safer state when you didn't have the trauma and then you were able to deal with it.
Right. Yeah. And then the last one, reaction formation, is replacing an unwanted impulse with its opposite. And one thing I think about this is I remember an episode of Modern Family when they had this neighbor. He was an old guy, and Luke, their son, became friends with him. I think his ball went into his yard one day, and that's started this. The guy was kind of grumpy, old grumpy guy, but he made with him and stuff. And then the guy died after I not in that same episode, but after a while, the guy passed away, and they found out about it, and they were gonna have to tell Luke. But Claire, his mother, had this impulse that whenever she gave bad news, that she would smile and kind of look happy about it. And I've heard that from other people too. And I have had this experience where I have to like talk about something bad happening, like somebody dying, and yet it was like I had the impulse to laugh about it. And that's kind of what this is. It's like you're feeling really sad, and if you express that, if you actually gave into that emotion, you probably would cry. And in order to you don't want to do that. I don't want people to see me cry. I don't want to be vulnerable in front of people and have that emotional response. And so my mind, my body kind of expresses it as happiness. Like, even though it's a horrible event, you're
Yeah.
basically doing the opposite. And that's kind of I think I kind of use that a lot, using humor in a lot of my writing. I'll write about like my boyfriend's death or things like that, but I might throw something sarcastic in there or something funny because I just can't deal with all the sadness. You know what?
Yeah.
I've got to I don't know, I've got to have some kind of a little release from that heavy emotion, you know?
It's funny you say that because I have to say this because this is what this is. The queer stories that I write at the end of the day, there are real people who are modeled. There are real people that some of the characters are modeled after.
Yeah.
Bubba and Remy in particular. And Bubba, the actual Bubba, died years ago. He was overweight. His heart gave out, and he did a lot of not healthy things. But I never dealt with that loss. It happened in a very tumultuous period of my life, and so only recently have I tried to cope with that death. And the way I have done that is to personify him in a story, the way he would have acted if he were alive today. Is
Yeah.
very much how I write him in those stories. So, yeah, I agree.
Karen
Well,
says, I laughed when my husband died and my friends thought I was a monster, but I just couldn't cry anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
human
Miranda.
brain.
Wait.
Yeah, I was going to talk about how um, I had a friend who, when I was a teenager, that committed suicide. And looking back, I'm pretty confident that that person was a trans egg, and that that's part of what led to their suicide was because of how people treated them. Um, but like that was someone who I didn't know for a long period of time, but like we were fast friends and like instantly connected. Um, felt like, I don't know, spiritual element to the friendship or something. And um, but when they died, people made fun of them after they died because, oh, he was caught in his girlfriend's panties, or like, the told all these stories and like really like denigrated and sexualized this person. And so I felt like I couldn't mourn them at the time. And so I suppressed that memory so effectively, um, that like I had like this idea in the back of my mind over the years that like, oh, I lost a friend to suicide at this point in time, but like that's as much as I would let myself think about it. And it wasn't until I was getting close to my egg cracking and started really looking at a whole group of memories that I had actively suppressed when I was younger, to the point where like I didn't have access to those memories until my like mid to late 30s. Um, and so I was um, I was in the middle of the like a work day at my office whenever the memory of that person, who they really were, and um, why they succumbed to that event, all of that hit me at like 1:30 in the afternoon in a work day, and like I was like bawling at my desk because I had suppressed that for so long. Um, but
The human
but
brain.
finally, like, yeah,
The
finally
human,
facing it is part of like what helped me find me.
the human brain works that way. There's some trigger, there's an activity, there's a moment, and your brain says, okay, I'm ready for you to handle this. So
Yeah,
there's an electrical impulse in your medulla that goes off. I experienced that with Zoe, um, when I found out she was dead. And so I had to be cascading of emotional trauma. That was a horrible year,
yeah,
you know. But yeah, it's the same thing. And so yeah, some random idle Tuesday, your brain says, "Okay, now."
Right. Yeah. Like, and I had been working up to it because there were all of these other memories that I had like started to remember and face and like explore. Um, and that one wasn't there yet until I heard their favorite song.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, thank you, Shuffle. You totally just ruined me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something I probably a lot of people have that experience is when as far as songs go, music can be very emotionally triggering. And there are one of these two songs that whenever they come on, I definitely think of my boyfriend. I just associate those with him.
Yeah.
That can be hard to deal with.
So then let me ask you a question. When that happens, do you listen to the song or do you skip?
I never skip it. No.
Right.
I no, I definitely listen to it.
Because you want
Because
to feel that. You want to feel that feeling.
I don't not want to think of him. You know what I mean? And
Right.
Yeah.
I think probably if I did skip it, that would mean I want to push that away and that memory of him, and I don't. Even though it can be sad, it's you know I loved him and I want to think about him, but yeah,
See, I have the same association, although it is with an individual who is still living, but that association is Stevie Nicks' voice. We all know who Stevie Nicks is, right?
Mhm.
yeah,
And and the reason for that is because when Gizmo was very young, like 4 or 5 and 6, we'd be in the car, and I was a music car person. I played music in the car, and she would perpetually ask me to Fleetwood Mac's Landslide would hit the playlist, and it would go through, and then she would say, "Mom, can you back up so that that song can play again or whatever?" And I would do that, and she would start singing it. And so, yeah, whenever I hear that song, like Aubrey's like, "Wendy, do you want to skip that now?" And I'm like, "No, because I want that feeling. It's hard. I'll start
Yeah.
crying, but that feeling it's a good feeling."
Yeah.
so what's do you use do either of you use humor as kind of a defense mechanism often?
I'm a terribly unfunny person.
I see. I spent a week with Miranda. I know that's bullshit. I know that's bullshit. I very, very clearly, yeah, I look at my Substack notes. Do I live for
Right.
humor? Oh, fuck yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's one that is, I think, an appropriate one to a degree. Like any of them you can take too far. If you're constantly just trying to be funny and covering up your emotions, then that may not be so healthy.
Yeah.
But I think using a little sarcasm and humor in the midst of something serious is not a bad thing. It can be a positive experience, a positive defense mechanism. I said in my one of my articles I was writing about my boyfriend's death, and I mentioned something funny that some people might think is irreverent, but I know he would think it's funny if he were looking down and reading this. He would probably laugh and say that's fucked up, but he would think it was funny, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I don't.
That's fucked up being a compliment in this sense.
Right. Yeah. So,
well, like mindless TV.
yeah,
You watching mindless TV. People don't get this. I think that mindless TV, and entirely for that reason, because especially when you're talking about the loss of a person. My grandmother, Helen, who I love very much, sometimes I watch stupid shit, and I'm literally imagining her going, "This is completely stupid. Why are you watching
yeah.
this?"
Why are you watching this? Yeah. So, if not humor, what other kind of defense mechanisms do you see yourself using? That you want to admit to?
Oh no! I have a whole list, but some of them are not great. Do you want me to
Right.
read my list first? You want me to read my list first, Miranda?
Sure.
All right. So when I was much younger, intense exercise.
Hmm.
I literally would get out, throw my headphones on, and start running until I was near complete exhaustion. And that's a healthy way to, as a coping mechanism, that's healthy, but you might get yourself into trouble if you're not sure.
Well, that's kind of what Miranda was talking about. Maybe the last time we talked, or not too long ago, about I was it tennis or
Yeah. I played competitive tennis, and because I was so wrapped up in the idea of proving myself as a man through sports,
yeah,
um, I shredded the cartilage in both my knees because it was like hustle all the time, go for every shot, do the, you know, work harder than everybody else to do good at the thing.
Yeah. See, for me, that was MA, martial arts competitions when I was younger. And it was
Yeah.
always like fight 2 weight classes higher than I should have. Like I really, I remember Karen. If you read my bio, Karen was the girl I dated in that time. I remember Karen telling me, "You go out there and you get your ass beaten in, and you still enjoy it." And I'm like, "'Cause I'm dealing with shit."
Yeah.
The other one is creation, writing. Writing for me is very clearly a coping strategy.
yeah,
If I didn't do it, then I. So here's the one where you're going to judge me. And now again, when I was much younger, casual sex, a lot of it,
yeah,
which that can be very not good if you're not careful.
Yeah.
Um, um, you know, uh, uh, and even further still, coupled with that, drinking and substance abuse. I mean, I was knocking down whole bottles of Macallans every week or so, just trying to deal with it. It wasn't until I got into competitive gaming, for instance, so Cyber Athlete League or whatever, after in the early 2000s when I realized that all the shit that I was doing at college was a bad idea. That I stopped drinking excessively, because if I drank excessively, then I couldn't maintain my reaction. Oh, and then finally, workaholism, focus on the job.
Yeah.
All right, now it's your turn, Miranda.
Oh, well, all of Wendy's answers. And um yeah, so I used to knock back about a bottle a week as well. Um I had this little uh rule with myself that if I ever drank straight from the bottle, then it meant that I had a problem.
Oh, yeah.
But I was like I had built up my tolerance so much that there never was a point where I couldn't pour it into a glass first. So it just became a way to deny that I had a problem and that I was so dependent on that drink. Um, and I have a history of doing like a lot of social isolation. Um, that's something I still struggle with, but like now I try to be more aware of when I'm acting like that. So I can like help myself figure out if like, because there's times you need um solitude. Like solitude is not a bad thing. So you might need to tell your friends like, I need some space so I can spend some time with myself or figure out this thing. But when you just, stop returning calls, stop returning texts, disappear, don't show up at your usual places, um, that's a different story. Um, so that's something that I've used to cope. Is just like, well, I'll run away from people because if no one else is perceiving my problem, then it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Okay, but see, there. Can I call you out?
Please.
So I asked Miranda if we could do trauma on Friday, and Miranda was like, "I don't have the headspace." And so when she tells me that, I literally, the first thing that goes off in my head is, okay, I'm not going to talk to her all weekend. She tells me that on Friday. She's trying to compartmentalize some shit, and I'm not gonna talk to her all weekend. But on Monday, is your headspace okay? Invariably I get that, yes, I'm better. But I try with her specifically not to go like weeks and weeks.
Yeah.
Um, I do the same thing with other members of the publication. Hell, Brandon, you probably get more messages from me than you're comfortable with, but I just, yeah, but
I'm
so
fine.
yeah, I agree with you on the isolation thing. I do it.
And that's one thing you brought up is recognizing signs. If if you don't if you don't recognize the signs of depression when you're starting to get into that, you can easily get deep into a
Yeah.
depression and be using those those unhealthy coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
And you get to a point where it's much more difficult to dig yourself out of it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes,
And
exactly.
I did the isolation thing. You know, I had depression for a long time. Well, I guess I would probably say I still do, but I just know how to manage it. I no longer allow myself to experience a depressive state anymore. I recognize it before it gets there.
Yeah.
So clinical depression, purely
Right.
from a diagnostic perspective, is a threshold.
Yeah.
If you are inclined to being clinically depressed, then at the bottom of the range, you're not depressed. But at the top of the range, you're horribly depressed. But that range always exists. The range doesn't go away.
Right.
How you deal with it, that's a different story. So
Yeah.
clinically, I would say, yes, I am a depressed person. And yes, I'm a person that suffers from anxiety. There are some days that anxiety is down here and it's
Right.
gone, doesn't go anywhere. And there are some days the anxiety is way up here and I just have to deal with it.
Yeah.
But I recognize the possibility that I will always have that emotional state one way or the other.
Right. And
So
I
let
went.
me ask you, Brandon, when you
Hmm,
do feel yourself getting depressed, what do you do?
I guess it depends on the situation, but like if I recognize what started it, it's usually it's usually something that's it's usually something minor. That's usually what happens in most of the cases where if I get depressed, there will be something minor will happen and I'll feel bad about it. And then I'll start to think of other things that kind of perpetuate it.
Yeah. It's death by a thousand cuts.
Yeah,
And there's like that one little trigger and it sends you that direction.
right.
Then so
I usually can I feel like I don't want to like sound arrogant or braggy or whatever, but I feel like I'm more self-aware now where I can recognize signs and stop it and be like and think back. I think it's always a good idea to think back to, if you can, think back to where this started. How
yeah.
Okay, this started because of this thought. Well, why did that thought happen? You go back and back until you find the origin. And usually it's something that is, like I said, it can be very minor, and I can try to look at it more objectively and think, did I start thinking this because it's real, or is this an imagined problem? Is this something like a potential, like I'm going into a situation and I think that this will probably happen, and then that gets me thinking, well, if that happens, then this is going to happen and this is going to happen. And I keep going and going. But the original thought, it wasn't rational. It was
Yeah.
completely imagined. You know, I'm going into this situation and I'm projecting that this completely irrational thing or imagined thing. I mean, there's a possibility, I guess, of it happening, but it's not likely. And I'm thinking of it as it's a reality, if that makes sense. I don't know if it's making sense in my head, but I don't know if I'm getting it out right.
You are. Yeah. It
Yes,
makes sense.
you're definitely making sense.
Okay. So I can usually go back to the original thought and say, this is that was that's stupid. This isn't even real. And I'm attaching these real emotions to something that hasn't even happened, you
Yeah.
know? And so then I can cause it to dissipate. It's okay if that original thought is gone, if it wasn't even real to begin with. I don't need to be depressed now. I didn't need to go down this whole road to where I would be depressed about it.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you can stop it early enough, you don't have to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Nope.
If you can recognize those signs. And it also helps if you have like a partner or someone close to you who also can recognize the signs and point it out if you're able to accept it, if you're able
Yeah. That's sometimes the hard part.
right. If you know and trust them and they know you, you know that they know these signs, then that is helpful, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah, my wife knows all my triggers, all my like tendencies toward coping poorly, and you know, she usually knows what's up before I've recognized it in myself yet.
Yeah, that's one
Um,
thing about those signs. Sometimes you don't recognize them and you just keep going, and it's a lot easier to, I don't want to say criticize exactly, but it is. I mean, it's easier to criticize someone else, to point out something in someone else, to see it in someone else than it is to see in your
yeah,
own self a lot of times.
Yeah, because what people see externally is entirely different than what you perceive about yourself externally.
right.
That one, she does it to me all the time. The minute she hears my phone like fall down on my desk, I immediately get these. Are you okay over there?
Yeah.
You know,
Something very
or
small and subtle, but she recognizes it.
yeah, she immediately will recognize it. Or if I start crying randomly, or if I look like I'm starting to cry, and she's like, "You look like," or that song, one of like my big 10 songs comes on the playlist. Wendy, don't you think you should skip that song?
No, I need to loop it 5 more times.
No, I need to loop it 5 more times so that so that I can hear it or whatever. But
Yeah.
um, I tell you, that happened to me over the weekend. So over the weekend on Saturday, it was family day at my Gizmos college. So by the way, I'm just gonna say there are people that maybe don't know this, but um, my child's actual name is Abby. And so for the purposes of the story, I'm gonna say Abby. And so I had not been down to Abby's school before. And so um, the opportunity to go and tour it, I didn't go and tour it, and then she made her decision. And so anyway, so like all of the things, um, well, so after that was over, we all went to dinner in the artsy district of the town. That involved going to the Capricorn Music Museum, and like all of the Capricorn recorded albums, they have these little listening stations or whatever. And so and and so Gizmo was sitting at one of those stations, had the headphones on her ears, and she was listening to an Allman Brothers record because the Allman Brothers recorded a bunch of songs at the Capricorn studio in Macon, which is where my child goes to school, Mercer University. And so the song she was listening to was the Allman Brothers' Melissa. And when I saw that, I immediately started to bawl, and I had to escort myself to a corner. And that one's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I just need a minute.
Yeah.
You know that. Yeah, they all know that everyone has a trigger.
One sign that I notice in myself is if I stop caring about my appearance, like if I'm, dressing really sloppily, I haven't taken a shower, not doing my hair at all, or things like that. I recognize those things as like because I've stopped caring.
Yeah.
I've stopped caring about myself, and that might seem kind of superficial, I guess, because it's appearance, but that's one of the signs for me.
Okay, I'm putting that in my filing cabinet. By the way.
Oh dear.
If Brandon comes on looking too rough, we need to check on him.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I'm the same way. Like the self-care and how much effort I'm putting into it is definitely a sign. And um, like it's not necessarily that like me feeling good means I'm getting dolled up.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like I can still be super casual, not put in a lot of like obvious effort, but it's all of like the little parts of self-care that
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. I would completely agree.
So you were talking about exercising, and that's a good way to kind of stave off depression. Of course, a lot of times when you're depressed, you don't feel like exercising. So
yeah.
it is that's a good place where if you can recognize it early enough, you might feel like doing something at least, and that will help bring you out of that, at least that shallow level that you've gotten to so far. You can get out of that. If you've gone too far into the depression, you're not going to do anything. You don't
Right.
feel like doing any exercise. You don't feel like going out with friends or whatever. But that's why it's important to if you can, work on becoming self-aware, recognizing the signs that lead you down that road.
Yeah.
Because that's the important part. Recognizing it early is really a key.
I think something else that's important is like meeting yourself where you are. So if like good mental health you is at the gym 3 times a week doing a certain workout and you fall off that pattern because your mental health is slipping, um, maybe you can't jump right back to your 3 times a week at the gym, but you might still be able to motivate yourself to go for a long walk
Right.
or, at least do your workout 1 day a week and, see what you can do to stabilize yourself and you can work your way back. You don't have to like
Right.
feel like you've failed because you're not doing your top tier thing. So,
Right. Yeah. Just like a negative thing, a small negative thing can lead you down into a depression. One small positive thing can work to bring yourself
work you
back
back
up.
up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's a normal human reaction. That's a normal human reaction.
So I know we didn't, laugh all hour long or anything. Sorry I couldn't do that for you, but
Yeah. But we also didn't cry all hour. So, yeah, I don't
that's
know.
right. Yeah. Consider that a win.
Yeah.
But I
So,
don't. Not if any of you have anything else.
No, I was really just gonna ask what we're gonna do on Friday. Wait, who's doing the next one?
I think I'm up.
Okay, so
Are you up for being up?
I
yeah,
hope so. No.
it's on Miranda for. So you'll be good on Friday. Well,
Yeah.
Emotions willing. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I hope
because
this one has been helpful.
yeah, very much so. I would say, mainly
Yeah.
because I have a great follow up to this one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I'm gonna work on that while I'm doing hacker engineering work. But I have a great follow up. So up to you, Miranda. But I
I
think
mean, if you feel like it's a direct follow up and you want to take Friday and I'll take next Monday, that's fine with me.
well, so like let's breach with the readership and ask. So my follow up that to be would be identity versus authenticity. Um, so if you decide not to, I have a follow up for identity and authenticity.
Okay.
But I want you to do it. So
Okay. Well, identity versus authenticity is definitely like always a good topic. So
yeah,
it doesn't necessarily need to follow as a sequel. It'll still be
no, no,
fresh
no,
next
no.
next Monday.
I have a list that, and it's interesting. I will tell you, Brandon, my list um, has many parallels to what you have communicated here, and so it's like, oh, okay, well, I can just cross that one off the list.
Oh. Well, I hope I didn't steal your thunder or anything.
No, God, no. I, I, in our private chat area, I'll like give you my list of the things that, and you can. Oh, I'll take that one. Okay, you can take that one. That's fine. It's more important that the people who are watching us learn from those experiences and grow or whatever, more than it's important who does it versus who doesn't.
Yeah.
Um, I think they're broadly important topics to have discussion about, and I think easily, at least for 6 or 7 of these, we all have experiences to convey through them. Surely,
Yeah.
surely, yeah, surely we do.
I do have another topic that I had been thinking about that I'd like to bring up sometime in the next time I'm up.
Next time you're up, yes,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Just um, let's just agree. Let's never break this band up. Let's always be a three-piece, and no matter how famous or infamous we get, we should just agree not to. Let's don't break the band
Mm,
because I never want to have to say, like years from now, can we get the band back together?
yeah. We don't want a reunion tour. We just want to keep touring.
Yeah, yeah. Not to exhaustion, but I mean, I want to do a tour like twice a week. I don't
Yeah.
think that's. I don't think that's painful. Is that painful for either of you? It's not for me.
No, it's good for me.
Okay, good. All right. Well, Brandon, Brenda, thank you both. Thank you to everybody that's watching. So I guess we'll see everybody at 1 o'clock on Friday.
Awesome.
All
Bye,
right.
y'all.
Love you both.
Bye.
Stay safe.